still be waiting for a few to join us, but make sure that we don't go too late this evening. Let's see, what do we want to, obviously, name, where you work, years of FileMaker, and let's see, what is a good question for this evening? I had one and now I've forgotten it.
Yeah, do both.
Let's do it together.
We can do both.
Favorite crime show?
Yeah, how about a variation of that one, Laura? How about the current TV show that has you you can't wait for the next episode? Does that work? Like whether it's an old show that you're just binging over again, or a current TV show that you can't wait for the next episode to stream. Does that work for everybody?
Mm-hmm.
Okay.
Sure.
I will get started. So yes, Todd Weller, across IT, using FileMaker for 19 years now, I guess. And current show, is probably comes as no surprise to the longtime members of the group, Falcon and the Winter Soldier, because I'm all about the superheroes. But I've also gone back and I'm currently binging Big Bang Theory. So
yeah.
really enjoying that one as well. So, and let me see, let me get to.
I'll go next because I've got my answer to my show that I'm binging on. I'm Jill Wellman. Yeah, Wellman and Weller here. I have been working, I'm a retired professor from CMU. I have been working with FileMaker as I'm sort of a serious amateur ad hoc basis and enjoying it a great deal. And a big part of it is coming to these meetings, which I'm glad to have. I will tell you that with really nothing to do and actually some serious health problems, I have been binging on news. And it was really always depressing news, and now it's always sort of interesting news, although I don't know how this trial is going to turn out, but I got to get the news about every 4 hours.
Okay. How about Thomas and Teresa?
Teresa Makwa, work for Profile Developers with my husband here. I've been working with FileMaker since 2007 or 9 or something like that, since 8.5. And we were watching Resident Alien. We were trying to catch that every week, but I think that's over now.
I think the season ended.
Yeah, but we can't wait for the next season because Alan Tudyk is so awesome. And it was interesting what they did with the storyline.
Thomas with Profile Developers, been developing with FileMaker since FileMaker 2, number 2, not Roman numeral 2. And yeah, Resident Alien, that's the one we've been watching, paying attention to the most. Yeah.
All right, how about Beth?
Hi, I'm Beth Latta from IT Solutions. I've been developing with FileMaker, same as Thomas, version 2, 31 years. TV show, I finished binging the first season of Ted Lasso, and it's absolutely brilliant. I think it's the best show I've ever seen in my life, and I can't wait for the next season.
Right, Beverly.
Hi, Beverly Vose, and I'm mostly retired, but they just won't let me go. And the number of years, if I said 100, everybody would laugh, but that's about right. I guess professionally it was 2.1, but I actually started with FileMaker before Claris FileMaker bought it. So long time. Next TV show. It's hard to say. I always record them so I can watch them when I can watch them, and so I don't worry about which one I can't wait to see because I want to see them all. I don't know. I have a favorite right now. Maybe Rookie, the Rookie.
Okay. All right. Kim.
Hello, Kim from Equiparts. We're commercial plumbing and hardware distributor. And I am the system admin and FileMaker developer. And I've been to probably FileMaker 9, whenever that came out. Beth, I have to agree with you. I watched Ted Lasso. That was hilarious. I really enjoyed that. So I was sad when I binged it so quickly. I didn't. There wasn't another season to watch. So
Yeah.
All right. Tony.
Tony White. Tony White Designs wasn't my idea last minute. Not too creative. FileMaker 2. And I've watched a lot of series over the years, but the movies and the TV cannot compete with current events these days. You got everything. You got drama.
Yep.
You got everything.
You got new characters and old characters coming back in new disguises. I mean, it's really something.
Lots of disguises.
Right. Greg.
So I'm Greg Pawanda, engineering manager for a semiconductor distributor called Aero Electronics. I've been using FileMaker just for a couple of years for a few things that we do within Aero, but actually more interested in trying to create a few more databases and applications for my own personal use. And I'm not much of a TV watcher. When I do put the TV on, I watch reruns of MASH.
Mm-hmm. That's pretty, yeah.
Always a good choice. All right. Laura.
Hi, I'm Laura Betts from Cross IT. I've been working with FileMaker since like 2010 version 9. And I have watched more TV in the past year than I have in a really long time. Falcon and Winter Soldier is definitely one. But I would Resident Alien's so great that I've also been watching back Firefly. But alternately, I've also been watching Great British Bake Off, so slowly going through that.
All right. Ken.
Hi, Ken Hallinan, retired from Carnegie Mellon. Been using FileMaker since FileMaker started. It was called FileMaker Plus, like some of the others in the group. Probably the show I'm keeping up with most is Pennyworth on Epics, and if I could find it somewhere, I'd go back and watch episodes of The Shield.
Right. Scott.
Scott, you're muted.
Yeah, that was trouble. Sorry. Scott Kuntz, FileMaker since whatever came after Nutshell. And I'm rewatching Breaking Bad and waiting for American Gods next season.
All right. Chris.
I've been working with FileMaker since the early 90s. I think FileMaker 2 was out, or maybe 2.1 just had come out, something like that. I actually got my start as a sales engineer at Claris in Chicago back in the day. So, and I don't know, Good Omens, I think would be on my list of good watches.
Very good. Heidi.
I came in a bit late, didn't hear what all the questions were, but I want to highly recommend Ted Lasso on Apple. Isn't that on Apple? Yeah. It's an Aaron Sorkin show. and I did not think I would like it, and watched it twice. It's really quite good.
Very good. And then I guess Paul.
Hi, thanks for having me. This is Paul Sprague from Connecticut. I've been using FileMaker since 1988. I work for a big printing company based in Wisconsin called Quad Graphics. And if we're doing TV shows, we're currently looking at Schitt's Creek on Netflix.
That's good too.
All right, very good. All right, so I think I got everybody, but did I miss anybody? All right.
Todd, if I can ask just a quick question.
Sure.
Paul, do you have any relatives in the Pittsburgh area?
I don't think so. We're from the Illinois Spragues.
Okay.
But thanks for asking.
All right. Okay. Yeah. So I mean, I don't have any slides for tonight because it's just a roundtable discussion. But I mean, hopefully we've all had opportunity to use the Script Debugger and data viewers. We're trying to find problems, but those two tools do not let you find every problem, especially if you're doing something on iOS or Webdirect or got something going on with a layout. So this is just a discussion of all the tips and tricks that you've accumulated along the way to help you out that will hopefully then help the rest of us out. So I don't know if who wants to jump in first to get us going, but that's kind of our primary topic here this evening. And then depending on how that goes, obviously we can morph into just general FileMaker discussion as the evening goes on. And for those that joined late, we just got a puppy. So if I suddenly disappear, that is why, because I got to take the puppy out. So just want to warn you all.
So I've been wrestling with summary reports lately. We have a situation where somebody has they call it a non-conformance log, but basically they send a shipment out and the shipment gets banged up and it comes back. And so they have to say, what happened to it? Did the boxes get punctured, or did they come apart, or are they leaking, or whatever? So there's any number of things that can be wrong with them when they come back. And so each return can have one or more items in it, and each one of those items can have one or more things wrong with it. And so we built a summary report at the item table level that said, hey, what's going on with this, and what date did this happen to, and what product did it happen to? And a lot of those values that we're looking for, such as the date, live in the parent record, not in the child record. And so we're sub-summarizing by the parent record, and we have conditional hides on, at the date level. We say, hey, how many leaking cases did we get? How many punctured cartons, et cetera? And if there's 0 values for that, we want that whole thing to disappear and slide up and, squash the date header as thin as we can get it. And we had all kinds of trouble with 0 values not disappearing when they should. If you run it in the data viewer, you can actually see, yes, I had 0, I had 11, or whatever the number was. But in the sub-summary layout that's based on a related value, it would not evaluate properly and would not disappear properly. But as soon as we created an unstored calculation in the child record that said, hey, equal the date over there in the parent, and then sub-summarized by that, everything started magically working.
Wow. I mean, is that what took you to that solution, or were you at that point just trying anything you could think of?
Yeah, 3 hours of my life later, I was just sort of scrounging. I think I ran into something similar maybe 6 or 8 months ago and had a similar resolution after banging my head against the desk. And so I thought, I think it's that related summary issue again. So yeah, sub-summaries, they sort of work okay when you're sub-summarizing on related values, but if you have any sort of conditional display stuff going on, that stuff seems to fall on its face.
Okay, well, that's good to know. I mean, not specifically related to that, and I can't remember the exact example, but I know Laura and I, our coworker, ran into an issue just this week where what he was looking at in the data viewer said that everything was working. But again, when you actually looked at it and it was on the layout or on the report, the values didn't match. So I guess that's another one of those cases where you can't always trust the data viewer. So, all right. Anybody else want to chime in?
I'll chime in. I'm working with another company. in a different location now. I haven't used FileMaker Webdirect since probably 2013. And so because this company does not have FileMaker, I've been using that and I'm developing in 19. And so there is a big difference on what it was like back then compared to now. But this other company has, they're mostly Windows based, and they do have some, most of them are on 10, but few of them are on 7, believe it or not. And what I'm finding is that Chrome probably seems to be the best to work with Webdirect for everyone. I don't know if anyone's been developing in Webdirect, if you have any insight or anything you would like to mention to me or something I should look out for. Because yes, you're right when you were saying earlier about you can't really figure it out unless you just look at it. I got to develop it in FileMaker Pro, and then I go back and look at it through each website, and then like, oh, it looks different. In some of the navigation buttons, they're not the same size in Edge as they are in Chrome or on a Mac, or so.
Hey, Kim, what theme were you using or styles that were on the layout?
Let me see. You mean like the template I was using?
What theme styles were you using for the layouts?
That was a good question. I just started doing it, so I didn't pay attention.
Because I found some of the themes are a problem for Webdirect.
Okay. Let me see what I have. Yeah, you have to give me a moment.
Yeah, well, that's a good suggestion, though. Just change it to something other than the default, and maybe it'll work.
Yeah, that is a good thought.
Somebody posted on community about JSON and putting comments with the double slash. And I think I tried it, but I have to go back to look at what I did to see if, what I did worked. But it seems to be okay as far as the JSON functions in FileMaker, that those are allowable characters, just a comment if you need to do that. I don't know if anybody else has found that or not.
Yes, I have not. I didn't even realize that putting comments in your JSON object was even an option.
Yeah, that's what we were just saying. I didn't realize that. I think if I would have realized it, it would have made me nervous. So I'm glad to know it works.
Okay, sorry, I had to look it up and look. It's enlightened. That's probably the default one, huh? I just started developing. I didn't think about it, about what I was doing. So I was just happy not to do IT work for a while. So I just got happy.
Yeah, I want to say, I know one of the things that we found, and I can't remember what the default font is for Enlightened, but as much as it pains me to use it, almost everything we've done on Webdirect, we stick with like an Arial type font, just because it seems to be the most common between all browsers. So that might be something you could look at too. And I think I want to say on Windows, you usually have to, pad your field height, a couple extra points, just so that it looks right on all the different browsers too.
Okay. Thank you.
It's been a while since I had a client with Webdirect, but I think we had everything as minimalist. The least amount of whatever could be in there, and everything was very, very plain as far as the layouts of forms and reports and stuff, and it was pretty efficient. And I don't think we had any reports of any browsers. I used Firefox and Safari, and I think they had a lot of Windows users with different browsers, and everything was just fine.
Thank you.
One other point on Webdirect, not about themes or anything, but layout order matters. Layering is really important when you're doing Webdirect. So let's say you have a button that you want the user to be able to click. If there is an object, like the text label happens to go across the button or something like that, they won't be able to click the button. So it is really important in Webdirect to make sure things that they need to be able to touch are in the front, bring to front.
Okay, that's a good point.
When you're
because
layering. Yeah.
one of the buttons, when you look at it on a Windows machine, then the text, like I was just using a navigation button. So I don't know what the default font is for that, but it looked great and everything, but on Windows Edge, I think it was that. Yeah, the text. I just changed the text because I didn't. This is like just a side project. This isn't something that this is going to go away in 6 months, so I wasn't putting my heart and soul into it,
Just to riff off something Beth just said, I will confess that back in the FileMaker 2 and 3 days, let's put it way back, I couldn't get text in a button to look nice. And so I put text on top of a button, just to get it to look nice. And it was only years later that one weekend or whatever, I was playing around and I found a way to get the text to look nice, which is, 10 on 15 button with 13 points of lighting or some weird setting. So from then on, I started putting my text inside buttons. Then FileMaker 12 came along, and then we got real buttons instead of grouped objects. So it's been a journey. And there's a lot of nuance in terms of, to get it work. I'm pretty satisfied if I get it to work on Mac and PC cross-platform without jumping around. A little padding for Windows because it's wider. But Webdirect, I don't know too much about Web. We did a couple, but not that much. Don't know.
All right. Well, like I said, last time I did something was 2013. So it definitely 19 is nicer to do Webdirect than it was back then. So yeah. Well, okay. Well, I appreciate everybody's input. Thank you.
Yeah, actually, I guess I'll add one more thing, Kim, because I know we had done some development in instant web publishing, and then moved it to Webdirect. And I know from like a troubleshooting like script standpoint, because there's more script steps that are compatible with Webdirect, you're able to pretty much test everything in the on the client before you go to Webdirect. But there's been still a few cases where I've had to do old school FileMaker and put in a show custom dialog box, so that something will pop up when I'm actually testing it in the browser. So you may still need to do that just as you're getting into your scripting and things like that. So
thank you.
And then also card windows and Webdirect with FileMaker 19. That's awesome.
Oh, okay. Okay,
that's
I will
good.
do that. Thank you.
They do
That would
work.
be a big help.
And so
Okay.
that's give you a lot more flexibility and possibilities. So You don't need to
Okay.
program around that limitation because it's not a limitation anymore. You can use card windows.
Okay, great. Now, I guess since you said, well, it wasn't Webdirect back in 2013. You just said whatever it was back then. I forget. You just said the name of it.
Yes, yes, the wonderful instant web publishing that we
Instant.
thought,
Yes, that's the last time I did. It was instant web publishing. Yes.
that we all thought was great until they showed us what FileMaker Webdirect could do, and we're like,
Right.
okay, this is how that was supposed to be. So,
Okay. All right. Thank you.
Yeah, and on that note, exporting and printing in Webdirect is, you have to do, it works a little bit differently. I know with printing, it has to open up in a new window or tab, and sometimes that needs to be like, even though you're opening a new one, the screen needs to be refreshed for some reason, otherwise it just doesn't show anything.
Laura, is that because you're switching to a new layout for printing?
New layout, new found set. Yeah.
Okay. And you're opening a new window to do that?
Well, it's using the print step, which in Webdirect opens a new tab or window.
Okay. Yeah. Yeah, we found that too, is that opening a new window for that kind of thing would sometimes leave you in limbo and some obscure message that you go, okay, it doesn't work. So I think I quit doing that on new window or new tab. I think I just, had some way to capture what I had and just said, go to this layout without a new window, because I think it was causing problems for the cross-platform issues.
Okay. Thank you both.
okay, what about FileMaker Go? I know that's one of those areas where you can do a lot of testing just in FileMaker Pro, but there's just certain things that you can't test until you run it on your iPhone or iPad. Anybody have any good techniques or tips for that?
I can just tell you what doesn't work. I tried. Navigation bars do not work very well in that. I just forget. I just want to. I have to just delete it and do it old school or something, or maybe I'm doing it wrong. But it cuts it off. You can't scroll all the way over on a navigation bar.
I have kind of a Apple related question about that. I just acquired last week an M1 and I haven't really loaded anything onto it yet, but I understand it can run, like, it could run FileMaker Go. Is that correct?
Oh, that's a very good question. Because M1s, they can do iOS, right? I think.
Well, that's I
Yeah,
mean,
that's.
I had read
those
that,
are-
but I hadn't dove into it enough to figure out how to actually work it.
Yeah, I haven't experienced one yet, but yeah, we're kind of we're not early adopters on things. Although I am a Mac IT person, I'm sorry, but I haven't done that yet. But yeah.
Hey, Paul, not a direct answer to your question, but since you got an M1 chip, I can tell you my M1 adventure. I had a client went out and bought all M1s, and known bug, send mail more than 2,000 characters. We pinned it down pretty good. A, we knew it didn't work. B, we went on to the internet and there was someone on community who had said, one of the partners had said, I tested it 12 different ways. It's over 2,000 characters. Customer confirmed. So should you find yourself trying to send email using the send mail step and sending emails of more than 2,000 characters, do not be surprised if it does not work. I did actually provide the client a workaround. They're on a Mac, and that's actually where it failed. Maybe it works on Windows, but on the Mac, I gave them an Apple script alternative that can, and that pathway works.
Okay, thank you. Yeah, I'll watch out for that one. I have done that, and I'm sure there are more than 2,000 characters.
Well, you can work around it. You know, the Apple Mail, the application called Mail from Apple has a very robust Apple script implementation, enabling you to send emails and or read emails back in. It's actually, I started using Apple Mail. I'd gone over to Outlook, which seemed to have gone to garbage. Used to be the best entourage, but now I'd say it's garbage. But Apple Mail, I'm using it. It seems pretty solid and robust on the Apple script level. Good job, Apple.
Yeah, Tony, with the send mail step, is that whether you're sending via client or SMTP, or just if you're using the local client to actually send the mail? Do you know?
Actually, that's a good question, because I think I misspoke when I said SMTP. It was just send mail is where it failed.
Okay.
The send mail step has the regular mail, which is what I saw fail. I did misspoke a moment ago when I said SMTP, which I have not tested. Maybe that doesn't work either.
Okay. I mean, because most of what we do is we use the SMTP option of the send mail script step, but have not had a chance to really test it on an M1 chip. So we'll be sure to be on the lookout for that if and when we get to that point.
You do the use it to do like silent emails for notifications and stuff like that?
Correct.
That's cool.
Yeah, thanks for the link, Chris. Chris has a link there for installing iOS apps on an M1.
Oh, beautiful. Thank you.
You know,
Sorry.
go ahead.
I have actually some good news and a question for everybody. I don't know if this falls within the category, but if anyone's got an answer, I'll tell it quick. Client says, hey, we want to print a document that contains an embedded PDF, and they've been doing it through images, and they shrink the PDF, let's say 80%, put a little header, put a little footer, put a little branding, print it out, and it was looking fuzzy and pixelated. And I said, I bet I can do better. So I took the PDF, split it on the Mac using a PDF split utility that seems to be readily available on the Macintosh computer. Then I did a little math, put a container field, scaled it 10:12 because PDFs, the metrics are divisible by 12, printed it out, and boy, was it crisp. Much better than what they had. Hopefully they're very excited. They should be. That's the good news, that PDF printing from FileMaker, an embedded PDF printing from FileMaker prints awesome, like a full vector treatment. Haven't tested on Windows, a little nervous about that. But here's my question. Does anyone know of a good utility that's hopefully free that runs on the Windows platform for splitting PDFs up? I haven't looked, this just came up yesterday, but maybe somebody knows off the top of the head if there's like, if PowerShell has it built in, or if there's something in the Windows platform for splitting PDFs into individual pages. Uh-oh. Oh no. That sounds like a no.
I can't say that I do.
Very, very little Windows experience, generally.
Okay. Yeah, we'll dig around. I know Monkey Bread, I know that there's third-party tools. On the Mac, it's, it's pretty easy with an Automator, OS X service. I have one of those. And then somebody, Shane Stanley, I think is the name, out of Australia, had a very nice AppleScript Objective-C rendition. But, I got to solve it on both platforms. Anyway, all right.
Tony, Chris posted a link. in
Oh,
the
just
chat.
now? Answers
Yeah.
Microsoft Windows Forum, how to split PDFs. Awesome. Thank you, Chris.
Yeah, Tim Bulwark here. I'll post one too, I found.
Okay, awesome. I mean, I was working on the Mac side today, and my strategy, because I'm better on the Mac than the PC. My strategy was get the workflow nailed down, because there's multiple pathways to the finish line. I just got to get the client to say, what sequence of steps would satisfy them. Because we're getting PDFs, we got to split them. We're going to import them into FileMaker. We got to, it's a related table file to page, one to many. And, and how, the workflow for managing the file structure, whether they're embedded or by reference, which I realize is deprecated. This is cool. I'll check out these links. Thank you, everybody.
I've had an experience that made me think about FileMaker Go, and this is because I haven't had enough to do lately. So I started getting interested in all the artificial reality that was coming up for things like TikTok and Snapchat chat is the biggie. And so there are all sorts of different kinds of artificial reality, but a lot of the silly ones are things where your picture has this huge big mouth, or as a rather useful thing, this is artificial reality mascara here. My eyelashes have not been seen by man nor beast in decades, and I usually wear it, but I've stopped doing it because the AR technology will do it for you, and it's kind of no fuss, no mess. But in the process of this, Snapchat basically markets its Snapchat and Snap Camera, and those run on iPhones and iPads. But to make this stuff, you have to go to a computer and use their Lens Studio. So now you're on Lens Studio, and the product you want to market or put out there in their big venues is going to go on an iPhone particularly. Even on an iPad, it looks like an iPhone. And you can't really tell what it looks like. Well, they have a mini portal window that you work in. And one of them is a simulation window. And you can pick whether you want to look at an iPhone 8 or an iPhone 10 or something that's a little broader, which I think is supposed to be sort of like a horizontal iPad. So at first you could just look at this size, and you can press a button and it links to your other device, and then you can really see it in another device within a couple seconds. But even better now, they really seem to have the simulation down, looking really good. So I can really tell what it's going to look like, and sometimes I don't do this, but I see things where they have buttons you can push and timed events that you have to keep up with. And as far as I can tell, this simulation really works well, and it enormously reduces frustration for me for having to develop on one device and then pick up a totally different device to look at it on. I think they've done a good job with that. All free if you want to look at it.
One of the things that I do, I've done a number of FileMaker Go projects over the years. First thing I do is get the metrics of the screen using the get functions. And I usually get the 4 metrics, whether the 2 bars, which one's showing. Most of the time I develop with the bars showing because it's easier. But that's the first thing I do with a Go. You just get a file, put some get functions on the screen, maybe using the symbols, I forget what it is, window width, window height. And then I know exactly what my target screen is down to the pixel. And I did one in Go, and it was kind of fun because I was just like optimizing the images so that they'd scale perfectly. Just like I was optimizing PDFs earlier to try and scale perfectly to get, pixel perfect. But anyway, get functions for FileMaker Go based on the device at the start of the project. And it is a pain if people have multiple different devices, because they do have different measurements over the years.
Yeah, yeah. Yeah, they have really done all this for you. I think they've taken, I don't know if that, how much they've taken account of color and lighting and stuff. I mean, this is a popular device. They're making money off of this. It's all the teeny boppers who are driving this market. So it's, I think it's sort of a venue to watch. But I agree with you. That's exactly the way to develop, except that you need to have a few of those bars and think about what it's going to look like on an iPhone 8 versus an iPhone 10 versus the other odd size iPhones there are.
Yeah, there's a table out there. When I looked, I bought an iPad 10, I think it was, and Apple hadn't updated it, and FileMaker hadn't updated it, and I didn't own one. So that was a little bit frustrating. You'd think that they'd both sell the product and also document it.
Yes.
Yeah, here's a question. I mean, kind of in line with a lot of that with the iOS, like for script debugging, like if you have an app that's going to be running locally on the device because somebody's going to take it out to where they don't have Wi-Fi or whatever, do you still develop it like on a server so that you can connect to it, that it's so that it's hosted, and then if you have to make a change in the script, you don't have to keep moving the file back and forth, or how do you guys all handle that?
Yeah, I do a lot of Go apps, and yes, I don't host it on the server, but I will have it shareable from my desktop so I can connect to it from the iPad. But I think it's pretty critical to have the iPad ready to just keep testing, and you just have to do it over and over again. But also you can still do all of the debugging on Pro on a desktop. Because when you're looking through the debugger, you can see which steps should and shouldn't be compatible. I mean, there aren't that many that are custom to Go. You know, like if you're going to take a picture or something, obviously insert from device isn't going to work on a desktop, but those are the kind of things that when you connect to the hosted version, you can test those pretty much live.
And we do the same. I mean, most of the work on the hosted, because you can make the changes. And then in addition to that, a little bit of a pipeline to make it as easy as possible to get the file onto the device. Because we did one of the projects where we were assuming the people were in the basement without Wi-Fi, you know, and a sync and data API, which was challenging. And so ultimately you do need some methodology to get it. And I think if I recall correctly, we had a container, it was a multi-file solution, and we had a container field, and then people could, you know, open one of the files and then click download, and it would download the file to the device. So yeah, handle deployment. And some of the guys a while back, some people had some automatic update technology. Calibri had something, and I think the seed code people had something, going back just in terms of making it easy to deploy to the device.
Yeah, we use, I've used a couple of different platforms too. Some of my implementations, we use GoZync, and they have kind of a built-in deployment feature to that one, where you essentially connect to a hosted file and say, I want to download whatever apps are in your solution. But I've used the container method as well in different ones, where you just have a script that basically exports the contents of a container, and then it can open it right up.
Yeah, I went the simple route, just throw out the previous version and manually down the other. Some of them were like, check the version number. If this, you know, complicated script is more magical, but I'm like, I'm going to throw out the old version and download the new one.
Yeah, it's always a matter of what's the use case, what's the situation, you know.
Yeah.
A lot of times it's easier to just grab a fresh file and start over. And, you know, you probably want error trapping in there to be like, are you sure you want to get a new copy or something like that, depending on what this app is doing. but a lot of times it is easy to just, get a fresh one each time. The other thing to think about with Go development is account management. Because, if you're deploying this and, you have a new user, then you either have to set up that user account in the file, put the new file in the container, that then they have to download the new file from the container. You can't edit the file once it's on the iPad unless you're using some kind of scripted process, that's going to create accounts for you in your app.
Yeah.
That's good to know. Because there's one place where we use the container method for our sister company. And it's a quarterly inventory process where they download a fresh copy that's got, this is what's in inventory. Then they go out and start, scanning barcodes to compare. And what we do there is that we capture the person's name, but we don't worry about an account, and then just use like a robot account that when it goes to connect to the server, to then push, here's what I found back up to the server to do the, the reconciliation. Then it just uses that, robot account. So we didn't have to worry about managing individual accounts, but I could see where there would be scenarios where you would want to have that,
Yeah.
Those specific accounts and things.
Well, in one particular implementation, it's the one that I've shown, I think, before. It does home inspections. So when they download that, there's a default login when you first install it. So, the username is set up, the password is new, and then it gives you a screen saying, okay, what's your name? What's your inspector ID? What's your password? And then it validates, it calls the server to see if that account is in the hosted file. And if it is, then it creates an account in the iPad file with those credentials. So it sort of creates the account in a scripted way, but you don't have to have, if you've got 50 employees, you don't have to have 50 accounts in the iPad file. And then, if somebody leaves or whatever, you don't have a device out there with accounts that are no longer valid.
Okay. I'll have to keep that in mind. Thank you.
Oh, so I have a question. The profile developers people, there was a podcast that talked about globals, and setting them before hosting, and you guys had some trick, if you're still there, if you had some trick that was in one of your podcasts on the record. Is that your podcast?
Off the record, yeah.
Off the record, sorry about that. Do you remember what episode? Because it comes up, and I remember it as like, wow, that's a really good tip. It's like some trick to update globals without dehosting the file. Does that ring a bell?
Oh yeah, yeah. You can.
Do you remember what episode that was? And how many minutes in?
Good Lord. I will get that to you.
If you
I know I have notes here on the episode, so I can find which episode. I don't know off the top of my head.
If you send an email, and I'll tweet it to people, because I think it was a really good tip, and it does come up like a bunch of times, and it's like, I'll make some noise in whatever venue.
Oh, great.
I have,
but
a
sure,
tiny Twitter following that I could leverage.
Yeah, I will. I'll find that and I'll forward it to you. Sure.
Okay. Thank you. I'm going to drop my email just in case you don't have it. But anyway, that was a very cool technique, and most of the world doesn't even know about it yet, but not yet. Soon they will.
Yeah, but it is. It's when you need it, man, is that useful? Yeah.
Yep.
All right. What's the next tip or technique? I guess one thing we haven't really touched on is issues with layout objects, which doesn't happen often, but I'm sure it can happen. So, object not loading or something like that. Anybody have any experience with those kinds of problems?
Yeah, I mean, you can, all you need to do is like shuffle a layout object. Like I'm going to do this, make it look better, and then swap it for the other one. Whoops, my object name is wrong at that point. So we run a subroutine that runs off get layout object name and runs, I think, a pattern count or position to see if the layout object, if the object name that we're, if we have a portal with an object name, we're planning to go into the portal. If the object name changed, that would fail. So at the very top of the script, we have a listing of the object names that we're expecting. And then we pass them into a subroutine, which I think I might show it in the next couple days, which basically says that ain't there no more. And stop, fix it. But yeah, has it broken? Sure.
Okay.
Do we find out fast? Yes.
Okay, very good. I guess it's just worth re-emphasizing on Webdirect, the layering order matters. If you're hiding a button, or if the button's not in the front, it can't be clicked. So I guess anything else on that?
An icon, we did the thing where we put an icon on top of a button. That's basically the same. It's a variant of the same thought. It's layered objects where you could click through on desktop. But thankfully, FileMaker 14 glyphs have arrived and solved that problem. Button glyphs. Now we got to go back and redo like several thousand buttons.
Yeah. So I guess anything else in the realm of troubleshooting FileMaker issues? Because apparently we don't have too many problems. So
everything works perfect.
Yeah. I think one time I was doing a calculation to hide, and then I was using a let and a case statement, and at the end of the case it has the default thing. So I put it in there and it wasn't working for some reason. But if I put it outside like the letter of the case, it started to work. So apparently like the way that it calculated was from top to bottom. And if I put that in a regular calculation, it worked, because if I put in a data viewer, the result was fine, but when I put in the hide, it didn't. So I had to like reorder my calculation because it was calculating for some reason top to bottom. I found that out the hard way.
Interesting. I guess related to that, I've never done it myself, but I remember somebody, I don't know if it was at a DevCon, that you can like put a calculation in a tooltip if you wanted to evaluate when like a layout loads, and have it, declare like a global variable or something. Because I want to say that, is it tooltips that will always evaluate, or do they not evaluate until you like hover over them?
They evaluate on, I believe they evaluate on hover. A calculation in a button will evaluate.
Okay, maybe that's what I know. There was some kind of layout object that you could make, very tiny, hide it in the corner of your layout if you wanted to have some kind of calculation evaluate. But
you could do that with anything that has a conditional hide on it. So you could just draw a rectangle or a piece of text. I think Matt Petrowski demonstrated something where he had a text block just sitting on the layout, and then he had a conditional hide fire, and that would trigger getting content of that layout object. So the object would be called text, and he would say get layout object content, and then you'd have text. And so he would use that to like rapidly rustle up some JavaScript or HTML code or something like that and set it into a web viewer. And I think he did that with an animated splash screen that he had built in Hype.
Okay. You know, that sounds like a tip that I would have heard from Matt Petrowski. So that's probably the same one that I heard. I just couldn't remember what the object was and how he used it.
And Darren Terry did a presentation called Shaking the Dependency Tree, which I think you can find with a web search. It was, I think, one of the best presentations ever. Real bread and butter. I think it predates the hide object when calc, but it was pretty amazing in terms of when does something fire? Like when does a tooltip fire? When does a conditional formatting calc fire? When does et cetera, et cetera.
I think that was FileMaker Hacks that Kevin posted that. I'll see if I can find it and
a link.
Get the link, yeah.
Okay. All right. Anybody have anything else as it relates to troubleshooting and things before we can move on to one more thing?
I got one. It's layout symbols. I used to, and I still do, put get functions in files. And then one day I stumbled across this feature that had been around for like 10 versions, which is layout symbols. So I haven't done a lot with it, but it's a little tiny button. You know, I have a little tiny button in the lower right-hand corner of the screen. And if you click on it, it runs a popover. And inside the popover is just a bunch of layout symbols, like what version, what account name, what privilege set, and so forth and so on. And the thesis would be like somebody says, oh, it's not working. And then you go to their screen share. Let's say you click on the button and it displays the environment. So it's kind of things that you might put in the data viewer, things that you might put get functions into a field, but just very portable.
Yeah, that's pretty cool.
Just copy and paste one object and boom, it's there. No schema.
Very cool.
Yeah, I found that link for
Oh, there it is. Yeah, I see you dropped it in the chat. Awesome.
Yeah.
Yeah, that was amazing presentation. Should be every year.
All right. Okay, I guess anybody else have anything on troubleshooting before we move on? Okay, well, I guess, before we jump into the one more thing, since Tim and Mike had joined us a little bit after we'd gone through the introductions, we'll give them a chance to introduce themselves. But we were looking for name, where you work, number of years you've used FileMaker, and then your either a current favorite TV show or one that you find eminently bingeable, that you just are, even if it's an old show that you're currently watching. So those were the questions of the evening. So I don't know if Tim, if you want to get us started there.
You wanted me to go first here. Let me put my video on. You guys see me?
Yep.
Okay. My name's Tim Bulwark. I've been working with FileMaker probably a year and a half now. I'm a newbie. I am not working right now. I'm between working and retirement and all kinds of other things. I am teaching at the Ohio State University, an interesting class, Ethics in the Information Age, to computer science students. So that's interesting. And I'm an NCIS nut. I just love that show. Gibbs last night was real interesting. So did I answer all the questions?
You got them all.
Great.
All righty, and Mike.
Unmuting and doing my video. You can see me?
Yep.
I don't like that I can't see myself. Mike Ahern, work for IT Solutions with Beth Latta. I've been doing FileMaker since I guess FileMaker 4. I go back that far. And TV show that I think is binge worthy is Jack Ryan. I really appreciated the 2 seasons of that. I'm looking forward to season 3.
All right, very good. Okay, so yeah, we'll move into one more thing. I actually have a couple more things, so I'll go ahead and get started. These are relatively quick. First one was I ran into an issue, I don't know, a week or so ago. Here, Paul, let me pause for the train.
When I hear that train whistle, it reminds me of my cousin Vinny.
Yeah, if you've missed the train, just wait 10 minutes, there'll be another one. So yeah, so I ran into an issue, and I think we've probably all experienced, we were putting PDFs into a container, and you could see the preview of the document on a Mac, but as soon as you switched over to Windows, all you got was the icon. And so I thought there has to be a better way. So I just did a quick, Google search to see, what there was, and actually found an article on the community forum that pointed me towards a newer FileMaker add-on by One More Thing, which is Fabrice Nordman's company over in Europe. That is a PDF viewer built in a web viewer. And I want to say it was like $59 or something. And you just drag it on, point it at your container field, and you can see PDFs interactively.
Oh, that would be great, because I'm even on Macs, I'm having trouble because it says I get the WebKit error message for PDFs.
Okay. Yeah,
so if you could please put that link in there, that would be awesome. Thank you.
I will do that. From what I could tell, I still need to get some information on the like the licensing, but I think if you're just using it for yourself and like an in-house solution, it's $59. It doesn't matter how many users you have or anything. It's as long as the developer that has it on, that's using it on their computer paid for it, then there's really not very many restrictions. And I got it, tried it, and it's like that's the best $59 I've. Now, granted, it was the boss's money, but not mine. But it was a pretty good investment, so I would certainly recommend. And the other cool thing about it is, I think we're all used to. You have to use go to the container on your feet layout, and then do insert PDF, because if you try to do insert file, it doesn't do it interactively. Well, you can actually use the standard insert file script step, but it'll still appear interactively in the web viewer through this add-on. So I would definitely recommend checking that out if you guys need to do anything. Now, the one thing, it does not do zooming, which may be a feature that they add. And then also it removes the ability to do like a right click and then export that, PDF, but that's easy enough to handle through, a button or whatever. So it's, but you don't have to worry about the Adobe toolbars making it so like the PDF preview is like this big, because it takes all the space in your container. So I get a very enthusiastic endorsement from me. And the other thing that I found, and it's been around for a while, but did you guys know that there's actually a preference so that you can have, when you create a new script, it doesn't automatically throw it into the scripts menu? I thought it was something that was new for 19, but it's actually been around for a few versions, because it's like one of the things that I always had to go to remember to do is create a new script and then go uncheck the checkbox so it doesn't appear in the menu. Well, that's actually a preference you can set. So I was like 10 days ago old when I discovered that. So hopefully you guys maybe even knew about it before then. So those are my one more thing. So does anybody else have one more thing they either want to share or ask? Or it could be 2 or 3 more things. We're not picky.
So I'll ask a question. Just wondering if anybody's used the calendar add-on and if there's an easy way to go through the code to figure out the color scheme to get away from the default of the blue that it uses.
I have not. I think we played around with the Kanban board, but I've not done anything with the calendar. So I don't know, does anybody else have any experience with that?
I have not either. The only thing I will say from other add-ons I've tried, essentially what's happening when you're getting an add-on from someone is they're the real developers. You know, we're FileMaker developers. We know how to drag and drop and type our stuff, but they are, you know, their scripts are going to have all of that stuff embedded in there somewhere. And it's really just a matter of kind of dissecting it to find what they're using. But they're using a lot of JavaScript and CSS and things like that. So you kind of have to do some detective work looking in their scripts to find where the settings are.
Yeah, I tried doing that. They don't have, even when you pull it up, it's not formatted, right?
Yeah,
it all just runs together. So it's very difficult to try to detective and reverse engineer it.
You can sometimes try to do things like, you know, copy the text out, paste it in a, you know, text edit and search for the word blue or whatever, you know, trying to find your way into the area of the code.
Right. Okay, thank you.
Mm-hmm.
Yeah, I don't know if it would be worth trying to reach out to of course, I guess I guess technically the calendar add-on is one that was developed by Claris, correct? It's not a third-party one officially.
It is Claris, but I believe they outsourced it. I don't think they did it themselves, if I remember. I did some research on it, and I can't remember if it was Geist Interactive was the one that actually did the development.
Yeah, I mean, it sounds like a Geist thing. I don't know if it would be worth, if you haven't tried it yet, would be to, you know, reach out to them and say, do you have any documentation on this if I wanted to change the color? But
yeah,
hard to say what kind of response
Yeah,
you might get.
I'm going to say probably not. If you can find out what framework they use, the JavaScript framework, there may or may not even be enough documentation on that to tell you where in the code to even look, because the JavaScript may be creating the CSS and not just here's a package of CSS that we're using. Oh, here you can change it. You may have to change it within the preferences for the JavaScript to create the color. If you know what I mean. It's not, I mean, a web page will be a combination of here's the CSS, here's the HTML, here's the JavaScript. But if it's a JavaScript framework that is actually creating the code, because it can write its own code, then you have to know where the variables are set to create that code. And so you have to know what framework's being used more than anything.
Okay. All right, thank you.
All right. Anyone else?
I'd like to mention that FM next week has their quarterly meeting on Wednesday the 14th, and then a virtual meeting on the 15th. So you can go to the website, see more details on that if you want to come. The virtual meetup's on craft.fm by Slant.
Alrighty. Thank you, Laura. All right. No one else? Okay, well, since Paul's not here, not Mr. Mueller, I will share his one more thing. But do you know what you call a pig that has laryngitis? Disgruntled.
Ugh.
Sorry, I couldn't resist. So
Oh.
okay, well,
I
I guess we can come
outside, Todd.
Okay. All right. Here, I'm going to go ahead and share my screen and we'll do the wrap up. But if anybody comes up with a question or something they want to share, we can circle back to one more thing here. All right. So hopefully you're seeing my, all right. All right. So just got a, got a typo there. Just some shameless self-promotion. Our lunch and learns for the Cross is offering are continuing in April. So Tuesday the 13th and then Wednesday the 21st and the 28th. And then we have a post on our website that kind of covers what the topics are going to be for this month. Of course, we have the the LinkedIn group as well as the Slack group. So if you're interested in joining either of those, go ahead and contact Laura and she can get you set up with those. For the survey, the first question we asked was based on Scott's presentation last month. And the majority were still trying to wrap their heads around all the techniques that he showed for his custom error reporting or custom reporting with the large data sets and everything. So second question we asked was, what are the reasons that you choose the FileMaker platform over another development environment? As you can see, the majority were obviously ease of use, everybody selected. Flexibility was pretty popular. It's what we know was another popular choice. And then at least half of you said you use FileMaker just so you can keep coming to the meeting. So I appreciate that. So thank you very much. And then our last question of the 6 main characters on Friends, which friend are you? And I guess it shouldn't be any surprise given his job, which they never really actually talk about, but the majority of us identified with Chandler Bing, who was the data systems analyst or whatever his official title was. So important dates. Our next meeting will be Wednesday, May the 5th. The Claris Engage conference is coming up here in October. Hopefully more details will be coming soon. And Tom Clancy's Without Remorse debuts on Amazon. That's Prime, not Prim. Another typo. That's what happens when you do it 10 minutes before the meeting. So on April 30th. So as far as our next topic, we're doing another FileMaker show and tell. Beverly has kindly offered to present. And then I guess I never... Not to put you on the spot there, Thomas, but are you going to be able to join us for the show and tell next month, or since you missed last month?
Yeah, most likely. Yeah, I'll email you about it.
Okay. Yeah, so we'll have a couple folks to do a show and tell for us, and then we'll, of course, we'll do a survey to close things out. So.
Yeah, I just wanted to get in there. People usually ask me to speak because they want to know something that I know that they don't. And that it doesn't mean I know everything, but I really know what I know really well. So I don't normally say, here's what I'm going to talk about, but I just wanted people to tell me what you want to know. What would you ask Bev about? And she may or may not answer, but what do you want to know that I know that you haven't either gotten into or you need a little more understanding on, or anything that you think that I'm known for XML, or I'm known for SQL, or I'm known for this or that. If there's something that you just have been itching to ask me a question about, what is it? Because I usually can base it off of what people want to know rather than what I think they want to know.
How to write XSLT.
Okay.
How do you create transformations?
Because I don't think we've had anybody do a presentation on XML either. We've had a few SQL things, but nothing on XML. So
Yeah. It's used, I think, primarily for import and export when you have to deal with that data set. And then the XSLT will be able to convert one way or the other between FileMaker's format and whatever format you need. And it can get pretty complex if you need a cross-tab table. It can get really simple if you just simply need to change the column names and format the date in a certain way and things like that. So yeah, I can get into that a little bit and give you some tips on that.
yeah, because actually I think I just ran into an issue where I had to do like an old school method to get, because what I was importing was actually in XML and I couldn't figure out how to do the XSLT to have it mean something. So all right.
So how much time?
Usually we go for since there's the two, probably 35 minutes, maybe 40 max. I don't know if that gives you enough time to really get into it, but
sounds good.
okay. So that's all I have. Did anybody else come up with something they want to either share or a question they wanted to ask? Okay, we are all a very talkative group this evening.
I came in late, so I don't know what I missed.
I'd like to say I didn't see that the results from the other meeting. If there is something or some things in particular from my discussion the other week that you'd want to see in detail, that would be easy enough to write it up and or present it again. I mean, there was an awful lot there, and I didn't go into great detail as to how any one of them worked. So I kind of feel bad because I saw that most people were still trying to wrap their head around it. Well, that's probably my fault more than yours. So just an FYI, if anyone wants more detail, whether that's a presentation or just a paper, let me know.
Okay, well, thank you, Scott. Yeah, and I say you guys can either contact Scott directly, or if you want to funnel things through me, I don't mind passing it along. So but it's probably a good topic to revisit at some point here. All right. Well, I guess anybody have anything else before we call it a night? All right. Well, that's, like I said, that's all I've got. So thank you all for joining us this evening. Said we'll send out the survey, see what you guys liked and didn't like, and then hopefully we'll see you all next month for I guess it would be Cinco de Mayo.
Awesome. Tacos all around.
Yeah. So yeah, if we can finally meet in person, we'll definitely try to do something with tacos. But I don't know if that'll happen or not. But I know even just so that because we have a lot more that are joining from further away, that even once we are going to be able to resume meeting in person, I think the plan is to make sure we have the technology in place so that everybody can still join remotely and join in on the discussion and stuff rather than just watching a meeting recording. So have no fear there. So
yay, and we're going to do the same thing with our user group too.
Very good.
Thank you, Todd. I probably will not be able to attend them in person, so I appreciate that. And I just want to thank everybody for giving me suggestions on the FileMaker Webdirect. So thank you very much.
You're welcome. All right. Well, that sounds great. Well, thanks again, everybody, and have a great evening and a great rest of the month.
All right. Take it easy.
Thanks, you too.
All right.
Bye.
Bye.
Thank you.
Bye, good night.